Shadows over Gainesville. The chilling tale of the Gainesville Ripper. The summer of 1990 in Gainesville, Florida, began like any other. The University of Florida campus was alive with the familiar rhythms of academic life. The steady flow of students arriving for the new semester, the laughter echoing through the tree-lined walkways, and the scent of magnolias mingling with the heavy, humid air. Cicadas droned lazily in the background, underscoring the languid pace of southern summer days and nights. It was a time when the town's collective consciousness was focused on classes, football games, and the simple pleasures of youth. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, an insidious dread was slowly creeping into the community, one that would unravel Gainesville's sense of safety and trust in the most harrowing way. Between August 22nd and September 20th, 1990, 6 young women, whose ages ranged from 16 to 26, vanished or were discovered dead under chilling circumstances. These events would forever mark Gainesville's history and cast a long, dark shadow over the community. The perpetrator behind these tragedies, who would come to be known infamously as the Gainesville Ripper, became a symbol of fear and horror. His name still echoes through the corridors of criminal history, representing one of the most brutal and terrifying crime sprees in Florida's past. Each victim was either a student or a young worker, women who embodied the promise of youth, whose lives were suddenly and violently cut short. The first known victim was Mary Ellen Hare, a 21-year-old University of Florida student. On the night of August 22nd, Mary Ellen was last seen leaving a friend's house in the early hours of the morning, a time when the campus streets were quiet but still alive with the faint hum of late-night activity. Hours later, her battered body was found, a haunting testament to the horror that had descended upon the community. She had been stabbed multiple times, a brutal attack characterized by a ferocity that shocked friends, family, and the local police alike. The savage nature of the assault sent ripples of fear through Gainesville, signaling that something much darker was unfolding. Within the following weeks, the pattern tragically repeated itself. The bodies of other young women, including Martha Crutchley and Denise Amber Lee, were discovered in isolated wooded areas or abandoned buildings on the outskirts of town. Each victim bore the unmistakable signs of a violent and savage attack. The killer's hallmark was chillingly consistent. Multiple stab wounds inflicted with a level of savagery that suggested not only intense rage, but also potentially a ritualistic or symbolic purpose behind the murders. The brutality was so profound that it seemed to transcend mere violence, raising questions about the killer's psychological state and motivations. What made the Gainesville Ripper particularly terrifying was the apparent randomness of his targets. There was no obvious connection between the victims beyond their gender and young age. Some were students attending the University of Florida, others worked menial jobs in the local area. The circumstances of their disappearances varied widely. Some were last seen walking alone at night, seemingly vulnerable and unsuspecting, while others disappeared from areas that were generally well populated or considered safe. This unpredictability gave the killer an almost spectral quality, a predator who could strike without warning, anywhere, anytime. The community was gripped by panic. Parents warned their children to stay indoors after dark, and young women hesitated to walk alone, their freedom curtailed by the specter of an unseen menace stalking the streets. The investigation that followed became one of the most intense and high-profile manhunts in Florida's history. Local law enforcement agencies, joined by state and federal investigators, dedicated every resource to solving the case. Detectives painstakingly combed through physical evidence gathered from crime scenes, interviewed countless witnesses, and followed every lead, no matter how small. The pressure was immense, the community demanded answers, and the media spotlight was relentless. Yet despite these efforts, the killer remained elusive, slipping through the fingers of justice like a ghost in the humid Floridian night. One particularly intriguing lead came from a taxi driver who often worked late-night shifts. He reported picking up a nervous young man near the last known location of one of the victims. The man's hands were reportedly stained red, a detail that chilled investigators and the public alike. When the driver asked about his destination, the man's responses were vague and evasive. This suspicious encounter fueled hope that the killer might finally be within reach. However, without concrete evidence, the lead eventually went cold, adding to the mounting frustration and fear gripping Gainesville. The reign of terror ended suddenly in October 1990 with the arrest of Danny Rolling, a drifter with a deeply disturbing past. Rolling was swiftly linked to the murders through a combination of forensic evidence, including blood and fiber analysis, and ultimately his own confessions. During interrogations, Rolling revealed a fractured and violent mind, one consumed by dark compulsions and depraved desires. His admissions painted a disturbing portrait of a man driven by an uncontrollable urge to kill, motivated by a twisted internal logic that confounded even seasoned investigators. The capture of Danny Rolling brought a grim relief to a community long held hostage by fear, but the emotional and psychological scars left by his crimes would endure for years to come. In the aftermath of the killings, Gainesville was transformed. Once a vibrant, thriving college town, it became haunted by questions that defied easy answers. How could such darkness have taken root in their midst? Were there warning signs that had gone unnoticed? Did the victims' cries for help go unheard? These unanswered questions lingered in every conversation and haunted the halls of the university. The community grappled not only with grief and loss, but also with a collective sense of vulnerability and betrayal. Memorials were held for the victims, honoring their lives and reminding the community of the fragile nature of safety. Families mourned in silence or expressed anger, seeking justice and closure that no prison sentence could fully provide. The tragedy ignited broader conversations about personal safety, mental health awareness, and the need for stronger community support systems. The Gainesville Ripper murders became a case study in the dangers lurking beneath the surface of everyday life and the importance of vigilance, empathy, and intervention. Even as Danny Rolling faced the consequences of his actions, eventually receiving the death penalty, the legacy of the Gainesville Ripper case remained an enigmatic and chilling reminder. It underscored the terrifying reality that predators can lurk in the most familiar places, hidden behind the mask of normalcy and passing unnoticed until the damage is done. The town's shadows grew long, their edges blurring with the memory of lost youth and shattered innocence. Today, the Gainesville Ripper murders serve as a haunting lesson in true crime history. They compel us to ask difficult questions. What lies beneath the surface of quiet towns? How can communities better protect their most vulnerable members? And perhaps most hauntingly, can we ever truly comprehend the mind of a killer driven by such senseless violence? The eerie truth remains: some shadows never vanish. They linger in the corners of memory, waiting to remind us that evil can wear many faces, and sometimes it wears the mask of ordinary life. In the humid Florida heat, under the veil of night, the story of the Gainesville Ripper remains a chilling whisper on the wind, a cautionary tale etched deeply into the heart of a community forever changed by unspeakable tragedy. As the years pass, the victims' names are spoken softly but never forgotten. Their stories, faces, and lives define a dark chapter in Gainesville's history. And in the quiet moments between dusk and dawn, one is left to wonder, what might have been if only the shadows had been seen sooner?